Hi, welcome to WoW Flash, the weekly news update. It's just a few minutes of me going through what's new in the world of Warcraft this week. This week we've had some news from developers on professions, as well as a project from Ask Mr. Robot that has now sort of gone very public. So if you're into professions, and I am, certainly, there's going to be an item called Blood of Sargeras, which you're going to want quite a lot of. Now, there's a few things with this which I am not necessarily 100% happy with, but I just wanted to sort of go through what the developers have said about it. You get Blood of Sargeras, by the way, from your professions. You can break down items as a crafter. You get it from nodes, from mining, herbing, skinning, that sort of thing. For some items, to craft them, you need quite a lot of them. Think of it as a bit like Savage Blood or Fell Blight. Only difference being they're not tradable. They are, in fact, they're soulbound. They're not even bind on account. Sorry, someone's beeping their horn for some reason. They're not even bound on account. And the reason for that is they say they don't, because you can get some of them from like the quest, the world quest, and they don't want people just have an army of alts to do those quests and get them really, really efficiently. But it does raise certain problems. Now, one of the main things, like on my main, for example, I am an enchanter and a blacksmith, so I would be able to obtain a certain number of bloods of Sargeras. Okay, that's fine. The second character I will be leveling, which is my Demon Hunter. Now, the second character I level is always a Gatherer, because obviously being a blacksmith as my main, I'm not able to get a lot of the materials myself. Of course, you know, I could buy some at the auction house. I don't know what the prices would be like. So my next one is up. Now, it always used to be Death Knight, who is a miner and herbalist. Now, when it's the Demon Hunter, I'm going to make them a miner and skinner, because, you know, some scales are also useful for crafting stuff for blacksmiths. So they're going to have double gathering, so they're going to be able to obtain Bloods of Sargeras. I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to be able to do with them, which is one issue. I'm hoping there will be something you can do with them, otherwise they're basically eliminating the choice to be a double gatherer. So I may have to look into that. I might have to change what the Demon Hunter even is via professions, and make them a miner and something. I don't even know. I don't even know. So, but there has been a bit of an issue at the moment. People have sort of got the impression that gatherers will obtain more Bloods of Sargeras. So it's almost like saying, well, if you're a blacksmith, you should be a miner as well. It's not quite true. It's just the case that, you know, on the beta, gatherers may have more Bloods of Sargeras because they were put into the beta before they were put in to be available for, like, blacksmiths, leather workers, tailors, that sort of thing. So it's purely that. It's supposed to be balanced so that you get this roughly the same. They say it's supposed to be an indicator of how much you're playing the game. Or I suppose realistically how much you're spending on professions. They've very much got this idea that the best crafters will be the people who put the most time into it. So, you know, people such as myself who's going to be doing quite serious raiding probably won't have the time to become a really good crafter, which is okay. We're sort of okay with that. I'm not necessarily sure I'm okay with the method of doing that, but, you know. In terms of transmog, they have said, again, linked to crafting, because an obvious thing will be, okay, can we craft transmog things, especially with the new wardrobe thing? And they've said not when it launches, but they've said not just an idea. Sometimes they say, oh, we might do it later on. They seem to be suggesting it's quite likely in a future patch. So crafters will be able to actually craft gear that's intended for transmog, which sounds interesting. There are some interesting items that different professions can make. I mean, I've shown on a previous video with blacksmithing, you can make sort of hoof plates, you know, shoes for your mount, which do various things, and the most useful one, of course, increasing your mount speed on the Broken Isles. It lasts for about 2 hours. If you're a blacksmith yourself, it lasts for 8 hours. And on all the different, like, or some of the crafters seem to be able to do these things as well, where there's a duration. It's typically about 2 hours. It gives you some benefit, like leather workers can craft something that makes you immune to being dazed or something like that on the Broken Isles. It lasts for 2 hours, but the leather worker, if they use it, lasts 8 hours. So an entire session Not that I'm saying 8 hours is a session, but you know, sometimes you'll play more for more than 2 hours, won't you? And engineers get this nice little item, which I get the impression you can plonk it down, and when combat ends, it will just res everyone. So you could use it, I suppose. I suppose it depends how expensive it will be to craft. I haven't really looked into that yet. And you've got instant wipe recovery, so there's no running back if you didn't have like a soulstone or someone or something like that. In terms of enchants that are not going to be weapon enchants, they've said that the artifact is exciting enough on its own. Okay, we don't. I mean, it's fine. Death Knights do still get to Runeforge their weapons because that's a Death Knight feature, and they've said that you can still do enchant like transmogs, a bit like you can with the enchanting building in WoD now. So if there's a particular look of an enchant you like, you can sort of transmog that onto it. In terms of Reagent Bank, thought this was interesting. It's been crying out for this. They, of course, released the Reagent Bank in WoD. Really, really good. I really love it. But it begs the question, because a lot of MMOs, you'd be able to have an account-wide one, which is great because then everyone can input everything in and you don't have to go across different characters to find the reagents you need. So having an account-wide one, obviously a bigger one, would be great. And they've sort of said, you know, there's no plans for that. But this one, unlike the other one, which is probably in the future, this one is a might in the future, which usually is, you know, language for not this expansion, maybe in the next one. In terms of a few other little bits and pieces for crafting, tailors this first appeared in Wrath, I think, really. The idea is that tailors will get more cloth drops. So tailors will get more cloth drops. There's nothing like in your spellbook that's going to indicate this. They just will, than non-tailors. In terms of the bags, there's no new big bag this expansion. The bags of crafted bags, of course, got bigger. Each expansion usually about an extra 2. There isn't one this expansion. There is just a 24 slot bag, which isn't the biggest in the game, but they've said it's going to be very cheap to produce. So in other words, I mean, you know, like at the moment, like when I create a new character, I usually get on a tailor and get some. You can usually get some. What's the TBC cloth called? Netherweave, and get that, and you can very cheaply, for a few gold really, craft a load of netherweave bag slots, which are 16 slotters. If you're willing to splash out a bit on this alt, then you can go for some higher ones, of course. So now it sounds like the cheap ones will get an upgrade from it just being 16 slots to 24 slots. But the biggest bags will presumably just be the WoD ones. There's no plans for anything bigger than that for Legion. Now, they've talked something about glyphs. This is a bit of a blast for the past for me, because they've said that the glyphs that still exist are what used to be minor glyphs. So the glyph system is basically going what used to be minor glyphs, which is just modifying spells slightly, mostly for cosmetic reasons, things like that. That's sort of going to be in there. But what you do is you get the glyph like scroll. Instead of like permanently learning it, you apply it to the spell. So if ever you sort of take that off and want to reapply it, or you change a different one and want to reapply it later, you'll need another scroll, which a scribe will make. I seem to remember that was the original plan when glyphs were introduced in Wrath. I'm pretty sure the original plan was that you would need several of them. So every time you changed your glyph, you would need like a stack of the scrolls to be able to do that. And then they went away from that because, frankly, it was a pain in the ass. This way, they're probably thinking they get away with it this time because they're sort of effectively largely cosmetic. They're not the sort of things like now with the major glyphs that we change. Because like now, we change major glyphs from fight to fight. We don't change the minor glyphs. So I think they're sort of thinking we'll get away with it because it's not the sort of thing you need to change. And the last point is, I've done a video on this, so if you've been watching that, this will not be news to anyone. But just in terms, because it is something that a lot of people do ask for, is, you know, like, what are my best stats? What's the best gear? What's best gear? Which trinket should I use in this fight? And Ask Mr. Robot are working on a project for a new user-friendly simulator. It's not intended to compete with SimCraft. If you are au fait with SimCraft and you're okay using that, then absolutely. This is one for people that look at SimCraft and go, oh no. Which is sort of partially me. I sort of stick with it for certain things. There's certain things I just can't be arsed doing with it. But this is the idea that this would be more user-friendly. I did a video on that. If you haven't seen that, watch there. Ask Mr. Robot themselves have done a video showing what it's capable of doing. I've put a link to that there. You can also have a look at their other videos as well, which is quite interesting. And that's pretty much the news in the world of Warcraft. I'm not going to talk about the news in the real world because it's just far too depressing. So hope you found that interesting. Give me some comments as well as to some of the things I've been doing this week. Obviously, the videos that I've been doing much more recently have been much more focused on Legion, not just presenting what's in the beta, but actually getting us in the mindset for preparing for Legion. If you've been enjoying those or found those useful, then say so as well. And don't forget to like, comment and subscribe if you want to see more of this stuff. And until next time, I'll see you later. Hi, welcome to WoW Flash, the weekly news video. It's quite a brief one, just bringing you up to date